All right, part two of concurrent lines. The next concurrent line we're going to talk about is a median. And so a median is going to be connecting the vertex of one part of the triangle to the middle, the midpoint of the opposite side. So if this is the angle, this is the opposite side, this would be the approximate midpoint, and we connect it, okay? And so if we have the median of a triangle, it's gonna, again, connect the vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. And if we have multiple medians intersecting each other, that's called the point of concurrency. And that has a unique property. So if you were to connect the medians, right, of all of these, the intersection of those medians are gonna split each median up into a ratio of 2 to 1. So if this length were 2, this length would be 1. If the long length is 2, this length is 1. And so in class, what we're going to talk about is this is the long, the short, and then the whole line, the whole median. And so you'll be given different ratios in class to use, and so this table becomes quite handy. So if the long is 2, the short is 1, the whole line would be 3. And so we will see these common examples used in class. So this would be important to have written down so that you can reference it when working on problems. All right, so in this case, BG is the long, and that's 2, okay? And it's gonna be 2/3 of BF. So the whole thing is BF, BG would be 2, which is 2/3 of it, okay? CG is the long segment here, and that will be 2/3 of CD, okay? All right, so in each of these triangles that we're using for reference again, if we were to draw them, we'll see they are very similar to angle bisectors, but they're different. And they're different in that this down here, these segments are going to be congruent, where in angle bisectors, the angles are split in half, okay? So we would look for some type of congruency mark down here to tell you that this is a median. Okay, so this point of concurrency is called a centroid, right? And a centroid is the center of mass. And in class, we did a nice little demonstration with a sheet of paper to illustrate this point. Sometimes that's used in real life for balance points of objects and so on. So in this example, M is the centroid. So if this is 16 because it's given, right? If we go back to our table here, so the long is 16, right? That means the short has to be 8. So if we go back to this problem here, this is 16, that means this has to be 8, okay? In this case, OY is the whole thing, which is 9. So if we go back to our table, if the whole thing is 9, then the two parts broken up are 6 and 3. Okay, so if we go here, we can see why MY is 3. So if the whole thing is 9, the short has to be 3. In OM is going to be the long, and that's going to be 6. So 6 plus 3 would equal to 9. Now over here, MX, right, is the short segment. So if 16 is given, this would have to be 8. And then the whole thing would be 24. Okay, and again, we have our relationships here. Now, you may also notice too that the short is half of the long, and the long is twice the short. So that's another way to do it. If you're given the short, you can double it to get the long. If you have the long, you can take half. And if you're given the whole thing, you can divide it by 3 to find the short side. So in this case, 9 is the long. If we divide it by 3, the short side would be 3, and that's what we find in our ratio table here. All right, the final concurrent line is called an altitude. And so an altitude is going to be the height of the triangle. So it goes from the vertex straight down perpendicularly. Now, it doesn't necessarily bisect anything. So in this example, we would have a perpendicular line here. In a right triangle, it's the side. And in this triangle, it would actually be outside of the triangle. So again, the altitude is the height. We think of altitude of a mountain or a city in maybe geography class. So the altitude is the height of a particular shape. And in this case, the shape is the triangle. Okay, so the altitude is going to be inside, it will be a side, or it will be outside of a given triangle, depending on the orientation of it. All right, so the point of concurrency is called an orthocenter, right? So one thing that is important, these are your 4 concurrent lines, and they're easily confused. And so understanding this will really help you not get confused about problems that you're gonna see. So altitude and perpendicular bisector both have a right angle. However, an altitude is the height. It just measures the height of the triangle. And a perpendicular bisector will split a side length into concurrent parts. So you're probably gonna see congruency marks. All right, down here, median versus angle bisector. Both are gonna split a line in half. However, the median is gonna go from the vertex and probably angle down, where an angle bisector are going to just cut an angle in half. So where you're looking for congruency marks is gonna change. Okay, so really understand the difference of these 4 lines, in class as you prepare for your upcoming test.